Hey, good morning, friends. Hello, hello. It is this Tuesday on a rainy day here in beautiful Fall River, Massachusetts. We are all imagining a time when it gets warms up a little bit and isn't quite so damp and cold. Uh, that is a hope for all of us here. Good morning, everybody. Glad you're with us. Good morning, Yvette. Hey, Karen. Good morning to you. Glad you're here. How is everyone today? Hope you're doing well. Hope things are good. It is a busy week here. We have much happening. So, it as we approach Easter time, and we are in the midst of Holy Week. Lots going on. We'll talk about that in a bit. But hi, Audrey. Glad you're here. But I hope you are making some plans for Holy Week. I hope you have some things that you will do, and to keep some of the feasts of this, whether it's a teaching or a Monday, Thursday service or a Good Friday service, maybe, or a part of, or certainly Easter, maybe a sunrise service someplace, or worshiping in Easter. Hope you're going to keep the feast, as they say. Kristen, good morning to you. Hope you're well. Hope your mom's good. Donna, good morning. Glad you're here. All right. Hey, Vicky. Hope you're doing well. Hope things are all right. Just talking about you this morning, about looking forward to hearing about your Dominican trips. And John, good morning to you. Irene, hello. Hello, hello. Good to see you. Glad everyone's here today on this Holy Tuesday. So let's get going. It is the 12th day of April on this Holy Week at 11:11, and I am glad that you're with us and glad that you're part of the journey. Whether you're hearing my voice live right now or whether you're part of, you come along to join us later. Wherever you find yourself, may you know the blessing of Holy Week, that we are in the midst of working our way to the cross. Hey, Cecile, good morning. That this is a joy and a powerful time. So, and I've said this before, but it bears repeating that if you were to take all of the gospels and kind of put them together, and then you were to take out the part that's Holy Week and take out the part that's the other 3 years of ministry, Holy Week will be close to half or a third, somewhere in there, of the entire story. The entire story slows way down. We get way more detail about Jesus' life, about what he's up to, but all the things that are happening over this week than we do most the rest of his entire ministry. And this, we know, is not by accident, because it's leading to the single greatest event that the planet has ever seen in the resurrection. This journey from Palm Sunday that we just had on to Easter coming up this Sunday is, in fact, the greatest story ever told. So the goal and the hope is that we're going to talk about some of it this in the next few days. So just to give you the sense of the story of the movie thus far is that Sunday Jesus had arrives in Jerusalem after having gone to Bethany. He stops in Bethany first and sees his friends, and then heads out to Jerusalem on Sunday. On Sunday there is everybody has been so excited about what had happened and in Bethany and his arrival in Bethany. What happened in Bethany? But you might ask, hey, what happened in Bethany? Well, I'm glad you asked. That what happened in Bethany was, if you remember, Lazarus some time ago had been resurrected, and that people found this really curious, that a guy who had been dead for 4 days had been resurrected. And there were gathering crowds, not necessarily come to see Jesus, but to come and see Lazarus, to see the guy who was dead and is now alive. And Jesus goes to Lazarus's house in Bethany, his favorite place in the whole wide world, with Mary and Martha and Lazarus, his best friends, really, not his disciples. I mean, his disciples went through a lot, but really, when we look at where Jesus chooses to relax, chooses to spend time in joy, it is in Bethany. So he arrives in Bethany, and then the next day heads into Jerusalem, and has what is known as the triumphal entry, that he enters Jerusalem, and all these people that it came to see, that were there for the Passover, that were there to get ready for this huge ritual that happens once a year, where all of Israel descends upon Jerusalem and descends upon the temple to celebrate their liberty and their freedom from the Egyptians, and to celebrate and renew their covenant with God. They show up there and find the Lazarus and find this Jesus guy, and they are excited more about that necessarily than what's going to happen later in the week in the Passover. Or maybe it's equal, who knows? But there's a lot of people super excited about the fact that there was this guy that was dead and now he's alive. And so when Jesus when Jesus shows up in Jerusalem, it's a show, and he comes in through the sheep's gate and is joined by the is joined and accosted by the Pharisees, and ends up and yet continues to go right to the heart, right to the center of the holiest place in the world, the center of the world, and goes there in declaration of his kinghood, of his royalty, of him being the one to challenge the authority that has been set up and to create a new way of being. So he heads back to Bethany, heads back to and to hang out there. Bethany's about 2 miles outside of Jerusalem, so he heads on back, and he meets he goes back and hangs out with Mary and Martha and Lazarus again. Has another great night. Comes in the next Monday morning, ends up leaving Bethany. There's a fig tree that along the way that had borne was completely bare, even though it wasn't even the season for figs to bear fruit. And he curses the fig tree and weeps over Jerusalem as he approaches the city, and then cleanses the temple. And cleansing the temple means he ends up throwing out the money changers. He ends up getting into trouble. He spends a good part of the day in the temple, and then leaves that night, and then heads back to Bethany. Bethany's so crucial in this whole thing. So Tuesday morning, today, he gets up and he goes past the fig tree and offers a lesson on the fig tree as he goes past it about that which is barren, and then goes into the temple and begins to teach. And it's my belief. Now, other people have different opinions, but if you read the Gospel of Luke, you find that he actually teaches for a few days, because we don't actually know what happens tomorrow, that the Bible's silent on it. But if you read Luke, in a close read of Luke, you actually find out that he actually teaches for a couple days. I think that he arrives in he goes to the center of the world. He goes to the center of the temple, and he camps out. Like, he basically kind of storms the place. Like, he's upset. Now, there are rituals and stuff that are supposed to be going on, but Jesus has taken over the place. He has made a massive nuisance of himself. and so the priests and the chief priests are trying to get back on track with their rituals. They're trying to get back on track with Passover and the Passover ritual that is going to happen on Thursday and Friday, and the temple is all clogged up with these people who are coming to hear and follow this Jesus guy. And so I think for this day, he will stand there and he will teach, and he will challenge the religious authorities of his day and say, bring it on. Like he will in full effect stand before the authorities of his day and say this, and point to why and how God is coming into the world to do a new thing and to challenge the old, broke down, blood sacrifice system that isn't working, that is, in fact, separating them separating them and the people and all the world from the grace and the love of God. And then in order to reunite, to plug creation and God's relationship back into each other, he will come to stand before these authorities, and he will take them on one by one. This is why they get so mad at him. You always wonder, like, well, why is they so mad at this Jesus guy? Like, he's just walking around healing people, like, and it's because not only is he challenging their authority, but he's breaking down the entire system that they are charged with keeping, and he's setting up a new one that doesn't have blood sacrifice, that doesn't have them and the priests at the center of the world, but has a God that is simply and desiring of relationship with you and me, with a creation that is just in want of our love and attention, and that will shower us with love and attention when we too come back to engage it. So this kind of sets up what we're going to talk about today and tomorrow. I know, a long setup, huh? But I want to talk about these teachings that Jesus did over these past few days, because it's so significant to say this is what he was talking about in this place. He talks about a lot of there's the Sermon on the Mount. There's all the Gospels are filled with beauty and with wisdom and with grace and all that sort of stuff. But we have to remember where and when he's saying this. He said when he's teaching out of this 20th chapter of Luke, he's standing there with people that are literally in 48 to 72 hours going to kill him because of what he is saying and why he's saying it. And so I think spending a minute on talking about, or maybe 11 minutes, talking about those things, and 11 seconds, those things that are at the center of what he's offering, and the center of the challenge, at the center of the bring it on moment, when God stands before the world and says, bring all the hell that you can upon me, and not only will I conquer it, not only will I take it, not only will I willingly walk into the buzzsaw that is all the horror and pain and difficulty of the world, and all of the authority and all of the control and all the stuff that seeks to tear down and break and destroy. Not only will I stand in the face of all that, but I will take it with a smile, and I will take it with more wisdom and more grace. I will take it, and not only will I receive it and catch it, but I will destroy it. I will break it apart. I will shatter the system of pain and evil and control into 1,000 pieces, into shards shattered around the world. Now, evil hasn't left the world, obviously, and you and I can get hung up on those shards even today. But to know they are tiny pieces of a shattered system that has been destroyed in the actions of this week. And so I want to look at what does Jesus teach in this 20th chapter of Luke? What does he offer us in this? And he begins with this, and this is the firing, the first volley of what will become this great debate between he and the Pharisees. And we'll talk more about that debate tomorrow. But today, I just want to open us up to remember he has gone and he's cleansed the temple. He camped out there yesterday. He tipped over the tables. He threw the money changers out. There are stories about whips. I mean, there's all manner of things that happened in the temple, that he has claimed space there. And he's claimed space there not just with him, but with this huge crowd of people who have come to see what he has to say, and who's come to see the person that has brought Lazarus back from the dead. And so he comes back. So he stands. He returns again from Bethany on this Tuesday morning, and he begins to teach. And it says, and so it begins this way. It says, one day, as Jesus was teaching in the people in the temple courts, it was just one day. It was just this just that day that it happened to be. Luke has got such a subtle hand. He says, the people in the temple courts and proclaiming the good news, the chief priests and the teachers of the law, together with the elders, came up to him. Tell us, by what authority are you doing these things? They said, who gave you this authority? Now Jesus replies, he says, I will also ask you a question. Tell me, John's baptism, was it from heaven or was it from human origin? Now, they discussed this among themselves and said, if we say from heaven, he will ask, why didn't you believe him? And if we say from human origin, all the people will stone us because they are persuaded that John was a prophet. And so they answered, we don't know where he was coming from. And Jesus said, neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things. I think this is one of the great lessons that we can learn in challenging the authority of the world. And when I say challenging the authority of the world, we all have to do this. We don't get a buy on whether we're going to participate in the systems that we're given. We don't just get to go along and get along. Not that we can't, but it's always inevitably going to crash us up against things that matter to us, things that are important about, and particularly even on a personal level, about who we are and whose we are in this world. I mean, our parents may love us dearly, but they have ideas about who we should be and what we should do. The world our spouse may love us and love us dearly, but they have ideas about who we are and what we should do. Our employer may love us, may value our contribution, but they have ideas about who we are and what we should do. They have ideas about by what authority are you making declarations in your world. And by what authority are you going to live? Now, let's take this apart for just a second. And I know we're going to go long the next few days. Just accept it. That in these times, he says, Jesus' response, again, always a question. Jesus' response to when sought to be put on the defensive, who said, who gave you this authority? Who gave you the authority to smash up the temple? Who gave you the authority to teach in this way? Who gave you the authority to say, that authority is for giving. Look at their framework. Somebody had to give you that authority. And he replies with this question, John's baptism. Now remember what John was saying. This is what's so more important. We have to remember who John was. John was the guy the prophet at the edge of town, on the Jordan, baptizing people into this new way of being, and baptizes Jesus, and the Holy Spirit shows up. The dove descends, all the pageantry, the voice from heaven. This is not lost. This is not lost on the people that are there. John was a big deal. And even though it's been a few years, John continues to be a big deal in his status as prophet. And when he says, I was not worthy to tie the shoelaces on the Nikes on the guy that's on that guy. Like I'm not even worthy to bow down in the lowest of places. John, who was elevated to prophet status and declaring him the Messiah, Jesus is saying, why didn't you listen to John? Why didn't you got notification by whose authority it was, and you didn't listen? And even then, if you say it was from human origin, you are in fact dismantling the entire system in which you are participating. The early Christians do that. I mean, this is really what changes the world in Christianity, is this way in which that the whole world ends up being transformed because people stop participating in systems that don't work and begin ascribing themselves to heavenly systems. They begin taking care of widows and orphans. They begin taking care of people who are so at the margins they would just die. And they begin to say, by what authority do you do this? I do this because Christ declared, take care of the widows and orphans, love one another as I have loved you. In this desiring to begin to love the world, that's desiring to take care of each other, desiring to move to the world, was an authority that quite literally, in many ways, began to break apart the Roman Empire. In the 200s, now we're fast forwarding way ahead, but it begins to show you historically how this begins to play out. There's this thing called the Antonine Plagues. Now it happens during the it's a plague. You might guess that. We have a little experience with that, and it happens and it's throughout the Roman world, but particularly in Rome, but it's a really horrible plague. Lots of people die. The Christians, because they've been given this command, and because they have the love of Christ, and because they say they love because they were first loved, because they step into this place and instead of kind of hiding out or quarantining themselves or doing other things, they begin to take care of some of these plague victims. They begin to take care of people, and some of them recover. And so that the behavior of the Christians in the middle of the Antonine Plagues, like you can make the historical case, you don't get Christianity without the Antonine Plagues and without the way that the Christians respond to it, because it breaks apart the whole thing. It breaks apart the whole empire of the Romans. It breaks apart the people that were supposed to be going out and doing these things. It breaks it all apart, because now all these people who are worshiping the pagans and who are a part of the pagan traditions, nobody's going to the temples anymore. Why? Because the temples didn't take care of people. The temples didn't bear love. They didn't save Aunt Sally down the way when she was sick. They didn't tend to her, and yet those pesky Christians did. Like this is how this initial entry into Jerusalem, this initial challenge of authority, when Jesus says, bring it, and for 2 days he will stand in the middle of the temple and take every argument, every debate, every question that the chief priests have, and he will answer them, and he will overcome them. He will truly beat them in the art of truth and logos and rhetoric. And it's, and that really is the story of our faith, isn't it? I think. I think it's what ends up really happening is that when we end up between the rock and the hard place, when we end up in the immovable place, when we end up in the darkness, when we end up at the bottom of the rung of the ladder, we discover that the light continues to shine. We discover that the authority that is is higher than all the notions that we have about ourselves in our heads, the bad decisions that got us to a particular place, that we discover what real authority is. We discover what the real logos is in the world. Then we give all of our, and we throw all of our bad arguments about at it, and again and again and again it continues to defeat us and defeat all of our machinations about how we can control the world, or how we can run our little systems so that things keep together. This Jesus' authority being questioned as he enters in on Tuesday, and again I believe on Wednesday. Other people will disagree with that, but I don't care. That they stand in this place of teaching. Stand in this place of challenging any authority. Not for the simple fact of just tearing things down for the sake of tearing things down, but for the fact that those things that have grip over us, those things that have hold over us, those things whom we have given our authority away to, even though we didn't know, even though these systems that have been in place forever, all of them, when the moment comes, are challenged by a Jesus who stands at the center of the world and says, bring it on. Says, bring it on. Bring all your devils. Bring all your wounds. Bring all your pain. Bring all your hurt. Bring all your worry. Bring all your rage. Bring all your outrage. Bring all of it. And I will show you who has mastery over it, and how that mastery is made when you walk in the way that Christ has walked. This is the invitation of Holy Tuesday, and tomorrow we're going to lean into some of these things that he taught on Holy Wednesday, and begin to unpack a little bit about what was happening at the center of the world on these days. Thank you, gang, for being here. I hope these are good days for you. I hope that you know blessing in the opening of what happens in Holy Week. This is a powerful time. I feel it in my heart every year. I have other people who report this, that we too walk out these steps with Christ in the depths of our spiritual lives. So so my hope for you is that you look to the authority that is true and high and good in Christ Jesus. All right, friends, that's my hope for you today, and you have I will see you tomorrow with another 11:11.